I'm going to be doing a Spanish street today, and it's about simplifying the scene. So this is the reference that I'm going to be using, and it's a picture I took in Menorca. But what I want to do is just try and make it less complicated. Whenever you paint a street scene, there's often lots of houses, lots of doors, windows, roof lines, all the rest of it, and it can be a bit overwhelming. So I just want to try and simplify it down a little bit. So what I'm going to do is to simplify the scene, I'm going to think of it, instead of thinking of it as lots of houses, I'm thinking of it as one street. So that's one way of looking at it. So the first thing I'm going to do is draw the silhouette. So I'm going to start over here. I've got myself in a very peculiar angle in order to get the camera set up. So we've got this side of the street here. And I've got a roof going across there. And then here, if you're not sure about an angle of something, and I'm going to go into this on Friday, put your pencil down, and you realise how steep the angle is. So I'm going to go into more details of that on Friday. So I've got my sky shape in there. So instead of drawing the houses, I've drawn the sky. I hope you can see that. I'll just put that in a little darker. It'll become obvious when I start painting anyway. So let's bring this down. Now this street at the bottom is a very steep perspective. Here we have, again, I'm drawing the outline of the street, of the whole block of houses, rather than individual houses. Now there's a few shapes that I think are quite interesting. The sunlight hitting the side of this building here, and there's a bit of a roof coming down there. So I'm looking for that shape that I'm drawing rather than the actual shape of the house. And one of the ways I think about this, I think about it, those of you who are my age will understand what I'm saying here. I call it Morecambe and Wise painting. So it's all of the right elements, but not necessarily in the right order. I'm not going to draw in any of the windows yet. So now I've got this, I can bring that line down. And then from here, my street goes off at an angle round the corner behind this building. So I'm not thinking about this and saying, right, I've got to draw this house in and then I've got to draw this house in. I'm just looking at it as one street. Details, I'm not going to worry overly. The only thing I'm going to put in is I'm going to look at these perspective lines because they really help. Now the perspective line here is really steep, so I'm going to pop that in there. There's two buildings there, so let's do that, and then it drops down and there's another one there. This one is also very steep. And then here, it levels out quite a lot. So here, it drops down and then levels out. Okay, the only thing I want to have a little look at with my drawing is up here we've got these very interesting roof shapes. So having drawn the overall silhouette, I can now come in and put a few other details in there. So that's an overhang there to give me some shadows. So for now, that's probably all the drawing I'm going to do before I start putting some colour down. Okay, so I'm going to come in, I'm starting off with my big flat brush, and I'm going to put that gorgeous sky in. I'm using here a mixture of ultramarine and my intense blue. If you haven't got the intense, it might be phthalo in your kit, or marine blue. It's just a brighter slightly brighter blue. I'm going to try not to get it too soggy, so I'm going to wet the sky. Now this is supposed to just be water, but I've just mixed up my paint, so I've got a bit of colour on here. But if you don't tell anybody, I won't. Now I'm going to pick up a bit more of my colour. Oh, look at that gorgeous colour. Because I've put that on wet, it will dry a little lighter than that. Already we've got the beginnings of a street because we've got that silhouette going. Now I'm just going to put the street itself in, and for that I want a sort of grey colour, so I'm going to use my ultramarine and I'm going to put some burnt umber in there. You could use sienna, you could use a bit of diluted Payne's grey, neutral tint, any of those sort of colours, but something that's a bit greyish. So let's start off by putting this in and spreading it around. Okay. Now I just need to let that dry just for a minute. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up some shadow colours. No, I'm going to put the colour on my buildings first. So I'm mixing up a peachy colour here. And I'm just going to put in the variety of different colours that we've got on these buildings going round before I put my shadows in. I'm using the side of the brush to give me that flat edge. I'm going to get more yellow in this one. So we've got a yellowy building, but it doesn't matter if I end up missing out a building, I really don't mind. Because like I say, it's just giving you an idea. Point to put that, that's a lot of that is going to be in shadow anyway. I'm going to go somewhere in between the two for this building here. So you can see how quickly we're covering the ground here. I know there's a darker pink one in there, but I'm just going to leave the rest of those as white buildings for now. Okay, now I still need this to dry off a little bit. I'm going to mix up my shadow colour whilst I'm waiting, and this is going to be again ultramarine and umber. If you've only got raw umber, add a bit more ultramarine. Sorry, a bit less ultramarine. If you've only got burnt umber, a bit more ultramarine. So I'm just mixing this up. Okay, how are we doing down here? That's not dry yet. So let's start off over here. So what I'm going to put the shadows in under these roofs here. And when you're painting outside, you need to choose the moment when you put your shadows in, because if you don't choose your moment, you can have some shadows showing you morning, some shadows showing you afternoon. So let's come along here underneath this roof. And remember, that bit is a nice bright bit, so I want to leave that. That's okay, I can go over there. This bit comes down to about there. And this bit is all in shadow. And then I've got shadow at the top of this building here. So already we're starting to get some of that 3D coming through. Now I need to put my shadow over on this side, so I need a little bit more colour. And don't be afraid to be bold. The stronger you put your shadows in, the mess all over the place, the brighter your light will be. So now I'm going to put my shadow down here. Oh, that feels quite brave. Okay, so just bring that down. But this building is also casting a bit of shadow across the road. So then we've got those strong shadows going on there. So it's all really simplified. I've got a drip that's trying to force its way down, so let's take that out. Okay, I've just had a quick look whilst I was washing my brush out. What kind of paints are you using? I'm using here the Shin Han paints. I also like the SAA's watercolours. It just happens to be I know that these ones are the Shin Han paints. They're a good transparent paint. Right, now, while all of those shadows are drying, I've just got to try and find some dry areas to work into. So I'm going to use my smaller brush now. So I'm coming over to this, which is a number 8 round. The big flat brush, there should be a link on the notes for the event. This is a Pebeo number 8 round. Again, the SAA silver brushes are great for this too. So, try not to put my hand in it. I'm just going to put a little bit of, I'm using the point to give me sort of a broken line because of the way the roof tiles go up here. And there's more of those on the edge here. So just use that to give me some roof tile shapes. There's a bit of a terracotta roof behind there, but it's quite a pale one. I can put that in through there. Love this shadow here, really liking that. I'm going to leave that as is. Just having a look through here. Yeah, I'm just waiting for everything to dry off, so I'm just having a look through, see if there's anything else I can put in the meantime. So next thing I'm going to put in is start putting some of the shutters in, and like I say, treat this as a, you know, as long as you've got windows and they're roughly the right size for the building, don't worry if they're not exactly the right window for that building. Okay, so the shutters are a 2-part system. So put in the rectangles for the shutters, and then I can come back in and put the louvers on them a little bit later. And this has got a couple of other little windows down here, and then we've got a door in the middle. I'm not worried if the door isn't finished. In fact, I quite like it when it's not properly finished. I think it looks better. Now I've got a doorway in this one as well. And a lot of the shutters in Menorca are this traditional green colour, sort of dark green. So putting that in there, we've got windows going through, like I say, lots of windows, but not necessarily all in the right place. So we're starting to get the feel of the buildings coming through here. We've got some shutters going on at the top here. Now, a lot of these buildings, you get this just under the attic, there's these little tiny windows that crop up along there, which I quite like, just dipping in. Getting some more of my green here. Some more shutters. I'm going to put a bit of dark in the middle just for this window, the actual window part itself to be open. Doorway there. I think doorway there and another window there. That'll do, we can come back into those. Now where I've got sort of things that are a bit more detailed, I'm just going to come back in and draw this in now I've got my base colour down. Just drawing this window frame out, sorry, door frame. And then we've got a couple of windows up here. And then there's a little bit of different colour going on there. Okay, put that bit in, a bit of blue going across there. And then coming back to our green. Again, I'm just going to put these in as whole windows and I can put the louvers in afterwards. So the purpose of this is about putting those shadows in, but it's also about simplifying what you see. I've done it myself, I've seen other people do it, where you get really kind of caught up in all the details of what's going on a street like this. And what you're actually trying to create is the atmosphere of the street. So, yes. Okay, so now I've got some bits in there, I need to let those dry, so I'm going to come over and put some bits on this side. So I'm coming back over to my 30mm flat brush, just because this is a bit closer and it gives me that nice sharp edge. So again, I'm going to put in, I need a bit darker than that. Now this is quite tricky because of the sound problems I had earlier on in the week. I've gone over to a different bit of equipment, which means I'm actually sitting next to what I'm working on rather than in front of it. So it's quite tricky to see what I'm doing. So please be gentle. Let's put another. That one to come down a bit further. That needs to be a bit steeper. I'm not sure if that's okay, but the angle I'm at I can't really see, so that'll have to do for now. Okay, so again, coming back and putting some other areas in there, darkening a few things down. So these windows, these shutters, I want to put a window in between, like I did here. I need to put some shadow coming into that doorway. Again, just putting a few different marks in a couple of different places just adds a layer of detail. Now up here I want to put another layer of shadow underneath that ridge and a little bit under there as well. There's a bumpy mark along there. A couple of little funny things on the wall. Now they've got these lovely little gates, these little doorways, and as you're walking around the streets, these doorways are, I don't know, sometimes 3 foot tall, these tiny little gates. And we wondered what they, or I wondered what they were, and it turns out that they were where the donkeys used to be put at night. So they'd be working in the fields in the day, and they'd bring the donkeys back and they'd have a stable underneath the house, and they have these little half doors which are fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to start just putting a little other bits of information. So I'm going to put some of the louvers on some of the shutters. The shutters aren't square, they're not even, I'm not worried. This is about atmosphere. Just putting some of these in. That one I think you'd see. That one looks a bit like a butterfly. Just building up this bit of information, and I'm not going to do it on all of them. Again, I don't want to make it look too contrived, too fully drawn out. Recessing some of these doors. Okay, we've got shutters going on over here, so let's divide it into 2. Put some of those louvers in, and then just put a bit of shadow around it. There we go. Is that a louver? Let's bring that down. And this principle applies to this simplifying and looking at it as one street rather than 10 houses works when you're painting other things as well. So if you're painting a row of boats, I've used this as another demo when we're doing boats, and it's the same thing. You look at the silhouette of the whole thing rather than individual boats. Okay, for a quick look around, that kind of covers the basics, but I need to add some more information in. So what I'm going to do, in fact I might do some of this, no, I'm going to do some with the paint and then some with my pen. So a lot of the electric cabling comes along the buildings, and to me this is kind of what makes the island, you know, it's typical of the island. So if you see a painting with these on, you know, there's certain places it could come from and certain places it couldn't come from. So we start to build that along there. There's going to be some of these coming here. So that's my top perspective and that's my bottom. So it's about looking at where these things might run. Now I've got some balconies and things going on over this side, all a bit hidden in the shadows. A few more louvers, but I'm not putting them all in, it's just this suggestion of them. So, okay, now something I want to do, just want to deepen the shadow down there just slightly. It's usually slightly darker on either the wall or the floor, depending on, you know, the light settings. But in order to give me that definition, I want to make that a little bit darker there. So it's just adding another layer to that. And then we've got these lamps. So let me put one of these, or two of these lamps in. They're not all the way around here, but they are all over the place. So we've got a little one that's over here. So what I tend to do with the lamps is paint a horizontal line, then build up a little pyramid on top of it, a baseline, and then we just join those up. And then we've got our lamp. And then there is a much bigger one here, but I'm going to slightly move it. I'm just going to have it here. Actually, it needs to be down there. That one I'm going to put in the actual workings in a silhouette. So I can't really see what I'm doing on that side of the canvas, so I hope that works okay. I think I've more or less got everything that I wanted to get in there, but something I'm going to put in there that's not in my photograph is just a couple of people down the bottom here. And I know several of us have shown you different ways, you know, carrot people and all the rest of it. But something when you're painting people into a scene like this that you really have to consider is, could they get in through the doors? There's no point in having a person down here that's 3 times as, you know, that would walk up to the top floor of the building. And there's no point in having a person here, I haven't finished that door, that's only half the size of the door. It just doesn't look natural. Even if it's a big door and a small person, you just need to make it look natural. So I've got my door size here. So let's have a couple of people. Let's have somebody with a child there. Family group having a conversation. And based on what we know about where the shadows are, we can just put a little shadow coming away from them there. Let's have one more here, slightly taller person. Bag of shopping. Gone a bit tall, let's just give them a shadow. There. So we've got a little bit of life going on within the scene. I just needed to finish that doorway, didn't I? Let's put a door in here. That's in shadow, but not as strong all the way down. I'm just going to get my pen. This is the pen that's got the food nib, which is the nib that bends backwards slightly. I'm just going to do a little bit of drawing into this. It bends backward to give you a nice variety of shapes, but it doesn't like gravity. So even though there's no painting in parts of this, I don't think it actually matters, and I can square off a couple of doors and windows. I'm not going to do this all the way through. Let's just echo a bit of bumpiness across there and across there. So I'm just adding these details more into my foreground areas. Sometimes little things in the wall. I've got rid of all the footpaths in this city, you'll see. Let's put a little bit more. I'm going to have the same, I'll have a good look through all your messages, but really what I want you to do is to think about big shapes, not little shapes. Try to simplify what you see, and it makes it much easier, particularly when you're painting plein air and there is so much around you. It's more difficult to choose what not to paint than it is to choose what to paint. So yeah, if you can simplify a scene, then it makes it much easier. I hope that was helpful.